If you haven't seen the previous video in this series, follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend it with you.
55 seconds of logos.
Oh, are we gonna do the same shit over and over? You know, we got it the first 200 times you did this. It doesn't have to be in every single video.
A dark, desolate world.
In fact, this world essentially became Tron.
Yeah, but you're conflating two different concepts here. By talking about this world, you're making a Watsonian observation, but by suggesting it's Tron, you're making a Doylist comparison, considering you obviously are referring to the movie Tron. As I've said before, the grid and Tron are two different things.
X-Men movie dips into the opening DNA credits yet again.
You see how doing the same thing over and over annoys you? Imagine how we all feel about the 55 seconds logo.
So they wrote a discount Human Torch in the X-Men? That seems a little shortcutish.
No, they didn't. Sunspot has existed in Marvel Comics since 1982, a whole 32 years before this movie came out. And before some hopped-up little shit comes to CinemaSins' defense in my comment section talking about, he meant the comics, I'll let Jeremy himself answer that nonsense.
Books do not matter.
Oh, and they found a discount that robot thing from the first Thor movie as well. Huzzah!
This video is 16 minutes long because the best the CinemaSins writing team could come up with was, hey, these completely unrelated and differently powered things look alike. Obviously, that's a sin.
Why doesn't she shoot the portal to anywhere but this facility?
Jeremy very clearly sees Blink supporting her teammates who are struggling with the Sentinels and still asks, why isn't she leaving?
This is so freaking cool, but let me ask you this. How can you throw something that opens a portal and have it open a second portal wherever you want without throwing something else? Does she program it with her mind before she throws it?
I mean, duh. If a person's ability is to conjure portals, surely there's something on the other end of the portal. What the hell do you think this is, a movie made by Valve? Also, Jeremy sends something he likes.
Most everyone in the X-Men universe has a power that is mental, physical, or elemental. This one opens portals. It's cool as shit, don't get me wrong, but this is more sorcery than a DNA trait.
The third sin harping on Blink and her portals. But what's more is Jeremy suggests that all of the other X-Men's abilities are DNA traits while Blink's is magic. You know, because Storm literally influencing the weather and Cyclops' eyes being portals to a different dimension definitely scream genetics.
Her power is walking through walls. Are we just going to give her mental time travel abilities as well without any explanation?
First of all, Kitty's phasing abilities are never explained, only shown, something you should appreciate being that you sin exposition all the dang time. The same is done here with her chrono-skimming ability. Showing you she can do this is the explanation, same as in literally every other superhero movie. I mean, you're not questioning why Spider-Man can stick to walls, right? Her phasing power has grown to such a level that she can now phase through different dimensions, which allows her to send someone's consciousness through time. This is the modern adaptation of Rachel Summers' ability in the Days of Future Past comic.
You could build Professor X a hover chair to get down the stairs, or, you know, you could just make the stairs a ramp.
I think Jeremy is missing the future part of this movie's title. Obviously, wheels are superfluous in the future.
Mutants with the ability to transform herself into anyone.
Everyone f***ing knows who Mystique is. Just say her name already.
Another sin that is wrong in both Watsonian and Doylist. The members of the New Mutants like Sunspot and Warpath are obviously unaware of who Mystique is, and I'm sure some viewers are as well.
It was the first time she killed.
Wasn't her last.
Thanks, Wolverine.
Welcome.
In her DNA, they discovered the secrets to her powers of transformation. It gave them the key they needed to create weapons that could adapt to any mutant power.
How does figuring out the secrets of her transformation allow anyone to figure out all the powers in the mutant universe?
That is a blatant straw man. Xavier states the Sentinels would be able to adapt to any mutant power, not that they have figured out all the powers in the mutant universe. I seriously cannot understand how people can literally listen to one thing and come away with a completely different thing than what was actually said. This is exactly why all opinions are valid is quack bullshit.
And in less than 50 years, the machines that have destroyed so many of our kind were created.
The hell took them so long? Was it just the fact that they needed to get to the era of the modern X-Men movies to make it work? I bet it was.
Xavier and Magneto are describing something that takes place in 1973. With that in mind, the Sentinels actually do appear in X3 with a team training against them. You probably have a mental block on that film's existence because it's about as cohesive as a CinemaSins video.
I didn't have my powers in 1973.
Where'd they go? Would that be important for me to know before I go back in time?
Perhaps if you'd watched the movie a little longer, they'd explain it for you? You know, like when they specifically showed that Xavier was taking a medication that allowed him to walk but suppressed his psychic abilities? And why would that particular information be relevant to James in the first place? All he needs to do is convince Xavier to help him stop Raven from committing murder. He actually does this without that information, so your suggestion is essentially pointless.
Going back to the 1970s? Instant lava lamps and Roberta Flack tunes to help remind you.
Except the lava lamp's popularity was mainly during the 60s, and they became less popular in the 70s. Also, I find it interesting that you sin era-appropriate things in these period movies. You are essentially advocating for a movie to not have things that existed. Because reasons.
I'm ready to take your blood, Mr. Jackman, but I'm having trouble finding a vein. Sorry, I couldn't do that one without laughing.
Everything wrong with Days of Future Past. A muscular actor has veins.
You're telling me Mystique had a chance to kill Stryker and didn't do it? Do you realize how much she could have spared us if she just snapped this dude's neck right now? Damn it.
Dude, she didn't even know who Stryker was, nor did she know what he would do in the future. Damn, dude, do you have the Mega Millions numbers? Because you're judging people on information they never had. Besides, Havoc knocked Stryker out of her hands. She almost assuredly would have killed him.
Raven.
That's not my name. I had that.
I know. And I'm gonna say to you what you said to us then. F*** off.
Actually, he said, go f*** yourself. But I guess you can't expect this franchise to keep track of itself, especially since this entire movie is just an excuse to wipe out half the movies it's produced.
This was a good time to let the audience know that in the original script for First Class, Wolverine's line was supposed to be fuck off, but they did the take 8 times and Hugh improvised at the end. So technically speaking, Xavier has the correct line. Or is this something CinemaSins would have done? I don't know, I keep getting confused by all the people that tell me wins and sins are the same.
I designed the serum to treat his spine, derived from the same formula that helps me control my mutation.
Seriously? The serum that helps you control your mutation is in any way related to fixing spines? The f*** out of here.
Again, you are attacking a straw man. He said it is derived from that formula, meaning he used it as the basis for a new serum. The original serum was derived from Mystique's DNA, which has the capability to heal itself but suppresses the abilities of the user. This is obviously how it heals Xavier.
Previously in a better X-Men movie.
Jeremy thinks First Class is better than Days of Future Past. That's worth these many sins.
Oh, so he's in an inescapable prison under the Pentagon. Why couldn't you dicks just say that before? How do you get out of prison before Logan went back in time? He obviously got out, as we've seen in his later Ian McKellen years.
In an earlier scene, Professor X explains that after Mystique kills Trask, she is captured and experimented on. While explaining this, Wolverine states quite clearly that killing Trask wouldn't be the last time she killed. This explicitly means that eventually, Mystique escapes somehow, and just like in X2, she was the one who releases Magneto. That is, until Disney retcons all of this.
Be a young man now. Grew up outside of D.C. You could get into anywhere.
Funny that you would have never mentioned this dude to present-day Xavier or recruited him to the school or involved him in any other missions. Just kooky.
It's almost like Wolverine has been struggling with amnesia, so much so that he's forgotten his real name is James and goes by Logan.
Just don't know how the hell we're gonna find him.
We have a phone book.
Because all young men are in phone books, and the guy you're looking for totally lives in the same surrounding zip codes to the mansion.
Wolverine specifically states that he knows Quicksilver is in Washington, D.C., meaning they would know where to begin their search for Miss Maximoff. Jesus, dude, pay attention.
Maximoff? I barely know it. Logan made a comment earlier about having no idea where to find Quicksilver, but movie says, f that shit. They go straight to his house.
No, what the movie said was...
We have a phone book.
Did you forget your rant about the lava lamp earlier? This is the 70s. The majority of Americans were in the phone book back then, and I'm sure there weren't too many Maximoffs.
Also, just because you use an era-appropriate Pepsi logo does not mean you're still not selling your soul.
Says the guy who advertises Audible on his videos. Hell, you literally have an ad at the very beginning of your Mulan video.
I realize you want to go to great lengths to show this guard has all glass shit instead of metal, but Jesus, does he have fucking spare glass bullets on his belt for a fucking glass-ass gun?
No, he has polymer bullets for his polymer gun.
So these guys aren't the same height. This probably shouldn't work. And if you're saying they are, it's a sin of convenience that he can fit in the same uniform.
The actor that plays this security guard is Terrace Tyler, and a quick Google search shows Terrace's height as 6'1", which is, incidentally, my height. Evan Peters' height is 5'11", and according to this chart, when it comes to clothing, their height difference is negligible at best. Unless, of course, you're a woman on Tinder, in which case the height difference looks like this.
None of the mechanisms that make this work, including electrical, involve metal, apparently.
CinemaSins has never heard of fiber optics, apparently. Optical fiber would have been readily available in the 70s, and in addition to being immune to electromagnetic interference, which is important considering the prisoner, can transfer electricity. These fibers are especially helpful for converting electricity into light when near an MRI machine, which, you guessed it, contains magnets. Hint, hint.
The same 1970s gizmo that controlled the security cameras can also set off the sprinkler system? Yeah, no.
It can if Hank McCoy built it. You know, the super genius that ranks as one of the top 10 smartest people on Marvel Earth. You know, the guy that builds devices on par with Reed Goddamn Richards.
They told me you control metal.
And wait a second. Did this elevator run to the floor where he was imprisoned? Because don't tell me you can have a f***ing elevator like this without metal. Because I'll punch you in the face if you do.
Wait, what was that?
Because I'll punch you in the face if you do.
Bitch, you ain't gonna do shit. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, wait, what was that?
Because don't tell me you can have a f***ing elevator like this without metal.
One more time.
Don't tell me you can have a f***ing elevator like this.
Don't telly me?
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Don't tell me.
Teletubbies!
Teletubbies. Teletubbies. Say hello.
Also, at its simplest, an elevator is a box with some sort of pulley system. You can quite literally make an elevator out of any sturdy material and use high tensile strength rope with a heavy working load.
Wait, is this movie actually saying glass guns are a thing? And in the 1970s?
Again, these guns are not glass, but polymer, or in layman's terms, plastic. And if I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times. This is not our reality. You are watching a movie that is based on a comic book, one that features all manner of supernatural and unrealistic things. I cannot understand how you can watch a movie where people can shoot lasers with their eyes, but at the same time demand everything be realistic. It's fantasy. What's next? You're going to suggest Trask wouldn't have the technology to build the Sentinels either? Or that they couldn't have bonded a fictional metal to Wolverine's skeleton?
Movie asks you to consider whether the world is moving in real time or the music in Quicksilver's 1970s iPod is. Regardless, the music and the action on screen we see simply cannot coexist in the same reality.
Even if this weren't a made-up world, Quicksilver's music definitely could keep up with his speed. This is the song Quicksilver is listening to. Oh, you didn't recognize it? That's because I did this little-known technique called speeding it up. Magic!
What's the matter, baby? You don't think I look pretty like this?
X-Men franchise continues to believe that men wouldn't find Mystique attractive like this. It's like putting glasses on Rachel Lee Cook or an antisocial attitude on Julia Stiles.
It's hilarious to me that Jeremy is suggesting that it's ridiculous people wouldn't find Mystique attractive due to her skin color. Do you not understand how black people are treated around the world? I want you to think about how both of your examples were blonde white women. How many times has this woman been called the most beautiful woman on earth? Now, how about this one? Because one of these women is 62 years old, and the other one looks like it.
I didn't kill the president. The bullet curved because I was trying to save him.
Again, I have no clue how you were able to see the bullet, and if you could, why did you stop it so poorly? You have way better powers than that, dude, even if I think it's nonsense that you had a chance to stop it in the first place.
Well, for one, Magneto doesn't need to see a bullet to stop it. He can sense all the metal around him. And second, if you let the movie play a little bit more, he would have answered you.
I didn't kill the president. The bullet curved, Eric. Because I was trying to save him. They took me out before I could. Why would you try and save him? Because he was one of us.
Goodbye, physics. Nice to know you.
Not to belabor the point of physics not mattering in this instance, sending Mystique slide. I'll let her send you for this one.
Mystique chooses to change into the Black Lady, which, good for her. But she's the only black person in this sea of whiteness. How is she not going to stand out? And then she walks by herself through the robed area. What's the freaking point?
This suggests that Magneto is racist. You know, going for the black woman in a sea of whiteness because she's the only black person there and obviously doesn't belong. And being someone that survived the Holocaust, I'd say that's mighty hypocritical. No, the answer is much simpler. He saw her limping after putting a bullet in her leg.
I don't know you. Huh? What the hell is that?
Why would either timeline's version of Wolverine not know Beast or Xavier? So he jumps between the two times and also loses memories from both times?
Try paying attention. The Wolverine from the 1970s doesn't know Beast or Xavier. He doesn't meet them formally until the 2000s. Also, his name is Xavier, goddammit. He said his own name multiple times throughout these films.
I'm Charles Xavier. Would you like some breakfast?
How did you know that?
Lucky guess. Name's Xavier. Charles Xavier. How do you do?
Amy.
I'm sorry.
What the f*** is he waiting for?
Yes, Jeremy, why is he stalling in his reluctant attempt at killing one of his longtime friends?
Our best defense are these giant metal robots.
Yeah, because you're in the Marvel Universe where everything has to be giant metal robots.
I know, right? Like the Chitauri in the Avengers, the Dark Elves in Thor 2, Thanos in the Black Order in Infinity War, Red Skull and the Nazis in the First Avenger, the Kree in Captain Marvel, Killmonger in Black...
Charles rips off the Vulcan mind meld memory by touching thing from Star Trek, Unbreakable, and Underworld Evolution.
Considering Charles Xavier existed in comics 3 years before Star Trek was even a thing, no, I'd say all those other things were ripping him off.
Isn't this the exact same thing Ivan Vanko did in Iron Man 2?
No.
I have no doubt that Eric knew that his helmet was being kept at the Pentagon, but he knew the exact place where his helmet was hidden?
Considering Magneto's helmet is made out of metal, yes, he would know exactly where it is.
Where were the mutant-killing robots during the first X-Men movies? Remember what Charles said.
And in less than 50 years...
It either took them 50 years to perfect the robots, or the government had mutant-killing robots that we didn't see and no one feared or talked about for years.
There are two things wrong with this sin. The first is when Charles mentioned 50 years, he was referring to the shape-shifting Sentinels that could adapt to mutant powers. Obviously, when they prevented Raven from killing Tyrion, the future was changed and they accelerated the creation of these particular Sentinels. The second issue with this is that the Sentinels were shown in X3, as I mentioned earlier. Don't believe me? Well, then what the hell is this?
Class dismissed.
Man, when you watch this movie in the theater, you're like, F yeah, Quicksilver! But then when you watch this movie a second time, you're like, the f is this shit?
CinemaSins perfectly describes what it's like to watch CinemaSins.
He stopped all 120,000 pieces of shrapnel from that explosion except this one.
Yes, because that particular piece of material was from a Sentinel, which aren't metallic.
Hey Storm, you know what happens to a mutant who can control the weather when she gets stabbed by a Sentinel? The same thing that happens to everything else.
In the future, do I make it?
Yes, but sadly you're played by Kelsey Grammer, so in a way, no.
Ah, I get it. Because Kelsey Grammer is a proud Republican, this makes him a bad person. I guess you've never heard of Mitt Romney, John McCain, and George W. Bush. I mean, Bush paints. Yeah, but so did Hitler. Correction, Hitler did paint, but he got pushed into a different timeline by his snobbish art teacher. I'm just saying, maybe if we nurtured Bush's artistic talents, he wouldn't have become a megalomaniac mass murderer. Didn't you mean if we nurtured Adolf's artistic talents? Yes, Adolf's.
F you, movie. Someone gave this creepy, f***ing goggle-wearing slimy toad dude not only a job, but a job working the grill, with actual food that people are gonna eat?
That's racist.
We know for a fact Mystique drops the gun, but only then does the future change. But the future doesn't need to wait for this, does it? It should have already happened. It's almost like the movie is saying 1973 doesn't affect the future until a major choice is made, and the 1973 and 2020 whatever this year is are happening concurrently.
That's because they're showing you what would have happened if she didn't drop the gun. Once she does, that entire sequence dissipates.
I guess I'm gonna have to Google this shit when I get a chance.
Oh, you mean the books actually do matter? Because that's the only place you could have gotten that information in 2014 if you're a know-nothing casual. You know, what your fanboys are.
I prefer the real Raven. I said the real Raven. Perfection.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day like a treasure, and then Again I would spend it with you.